Welcome to Family Law Talk. Family Law Talk. Presented by Kirk Stange of Stange Law Firm, PC. Stange Law Firm is a multi-state family law firm. Now, here's your host, Kirk Stange.
Welcome to Family Law Talk. We have an interesting topic today. The topic is the prominence of co-parenting applications. And this episode today is based on an article on our blog, familylawheadquarters.com, dated July 8th, 2024. And the title of that article is The Rise of Co-Parenting Applications. So as a follow-up to the episode today, go on over to familylawheadquarters.com and read the article on this same topic for more information. But let's go ahead and jump on into the topic at hand today. The reality is co-parenting applications are on the rise. More and more individuals who are going through divorce and custody cases end up using co-parenting communication applications, and these applications can be pretty broadly used. So again, I referenced this before, but it can be used for communications. So versus texting or emailing back and forth, parents who have gone through a divorce or custody case communicate through these applications, okay? Other things that these applications do is calendar, doctor's appointments, other key events that might be out there like school stuff, other activities that kids might have. I mean, in other words, this is a calendar that's there for both parents to see and reference in terms of things that are coming up. And then on top of it, the payment of expenses for the kids can be done through many of these apps. So parents can submit receipts, invoices, if you will, submit it into the app. The other parent then has the ability to approve or disapprove of the expenditure, and then they're even able to make the payment through the app itself. And so the good thing about that is ultimately there's no dispute over whether or not a payment was made or not. Now look, some individuals use these apps without a court order. They do it by consent. As I said, these apps are becoming more and more commonplace. They're becoming more and more popular. And I think this goes hand in hand with just the rise of smartphones in general and individuals being very used to using all kinds of apps in their daily life already. So most individuals on their smartphones, you can do just about anything on your smartphone. It's a mini computer, if you will. And so individuals are very used to using applications. So using one of these applications is typically pretty seamless for individuals in general. It's just easy for folks to do. It's right there on that smartphone. It's easy to access, and it can be a very good thing for many individuals. Now look, lots of individuals are court ordered to do it. So courts more and more are ordering parties to do this. And this could be particularly true in cases where maybe it's tried or litigated, or it's a case that is somewhat contentious, if you will, and there's a lot of back and forth and disagreements. And really the idea here is that courts order parties to use these apps because it can make things better. At least that's the hope. It can make things better in terms of communications, calendaring, and the payment of expenses. So again, these apps are on the rise. They're becoming more and more prominent. And I will just say, when I first started practicing family law way back in 2000, I didn't see individuals using apps like this, but over the course of time, they have become more and more common, more and more prominent, and more parents who go through divorce or child custody cases end up using these apps. Now, look, there's lots of different types of applications out there. Some are more common than others, but just to give you the names of some of these apps, just so you know, in case you haven't heard of them, but Our Family Wizard and Talking Parents are two well-known co-parenting applications out there. There's other applications out there like Two Houses, Co-Parently, Co-Parenter, and then really a litany of others out there. Like I say, this is becoming more and more prominent, more and more commonplace. And individuals more and more are either using these apps, like I said, by consent, or courts are ordering the parties to use these apps as part of the disposition of the divorce or the custody case itself. So let's talk about some of the advantages. And obviously, others might have other advantages of these apps that I'm not going to reference here, but these are some of the common ones that lots of individuals would cite who have used these apps. And you can do research on the web and do Google searches of this, if you will, and you can maybe find some other advantages of these apps. But let me give you 5 of the advantages that are sort of commonly out there and commonly viewed by those in divorce and family law circles. One is the communication issue. It could make it easier for parties to communicate with one another. It's in one place, so it's in the app, so individuals don't have to switch between text and emails and phone communications. In other words, they can do all the communication right within the app. It's preserved. Once that communication's in the app, it typically can't be deleted from the app. So if somebody sends something, it's there. It'll be there for the court to view, the guardian ad litem or the attorneys. And so obviously that preservation piece can be a big piece. And at the same token, individuals have to exhibit a little more pause in terms of what they send, because once they send something within that app, it's hard to unsend it. But look, it's there, it's in one place, it's for everybody to view, and it's one central place, and that is typically one of the most commonly cited positive features of these apps that people cite. All right, two. And this goes a little bit hand in hand with number one, but like I said before, when the communication is preserved and folks know that what they send can't be sent, if you will, and it's going to be in this app, many are more restrained in what they send. And so while it's easy for individuals to fire off a text message or an email and maybe not take a lot of time for reflection before sending it, the fact that this is preserved can cause some people to think twice before hitting that send button. Some of these apps even help assess the tone of the message itself before it's sent. Like Talking Parents has that feature, and Our Family Wizard, I believe, has that feature too, where we'll assess the tone, and that can give an individual a little bit of time to think about what they're going to send and maybe rephrase their communication before firing it off. And so look, that preservation piece can be a huge feature of this app that many commonly would cite as a positive attribute. Okay, number three, co-parenting applications can be great in terms of payment of expenses for the kids. So without one of these applications, parties could be sending checks in the mail. They could be giving cash to the other party. And when this takes place, there can later be disputes about whether the money was sent, whether the money was received, whether it was deposited in the bank. And that can cause lots of problems. But where the payment is made in the app itself, then there's a record of it. Nobody can dispute it. Nobody can dispute what was submitted to the other parent. So if a receipt is attached or an invoice is attached, then the other party is going to be able to see that. And that record can be a good thing that leads to a lot less disputes. And, it helps parents avoid having to put a check in the mail, if you will. All they have to do is make the payment through the app. So that's number three. Number four, the calendar features of these apps can be very helpful. So look, without an app like this, parents could be confused about appointment dates, school events, activities, and even the locations of these kinds of matters, right? So within these apps, there's a universal calendar where both parents can see it, and the time and the date and the location of the event could be placed in there. And this feature can be very positive, because without it, there can be lots of disputes about these kinds of matters, and one parent might say they didn't know, or they didn't know the location of the event or the exact time or whatnot. So the calendar feature can be very, very helpful. All right, number five, more and more these apps are now incorporating phone calls and virtual conference features within these apps. So look, most communication is going to be typed within the app, much like a text message or an email, if you will, and it's preserved. And that's typically the way, lots of parents communicate about matters involving the kids. I mean, you put it in writing for the other parent to see, but there may be times where phone calls or virtual conferences need to occur between the parties. And the reality is there could be disputes over what was said in person, what was said on the phone. And these kinds of disputes can lead to, attorney fees and more motions being filed and more problems. And so what these apps offer is that these phone calls and virtual conferences be recorded. And so if they're recorded, there can be no real dispute over what took place and what was said. And this can be a positive thing. Obviously, it can come with some stress if you're being recorded. That can be a little bit stressful for some people, much like typing communication that can cause some stress when you know it's preserved forever. But again, it can lead to less back and forth about what was said and what wasn't said. It can give an individual the opportunity to go back and review something too, because sometimes, when two parties are having a conversation in the moment, maybe something doesn't really register, but if a party has the ability to go back and look at it again, then maybe they get a little bit more clarification there, and the second time they hear it, they understand a little bit better, okay? So those would be 5 positive attributes of these apps. But let's go through some of the potential disadvantages of these apps, because that's important too. Obviously, everybody who uses these apps isn't in love with it. So let's go through some of the potential disadvantages. Look, some might not like the cost of these apps. And that can be particularly true when an individual's already had to pay for attorneys in the divorce or custody case. Maybe there's child support and spousal support and other expenses that are out there. And now, there's a fee for using an application like this. Some parties might just not like that at all. So just the added cost would be one potential disadvantage. On the other hand, it's not that expensive to give the counter to that, and if it results in less back and forth and results in less legal wrangling in the future, then the cost can easily be worth it, but some might not like the cost. All right, 2, for those who are not tech savvy, they might struggle with these apps. For individuals who are very good on smartphones and computers, and they're very used to using applications, they're going to be probably great with this. But for individuals who are not great at technology, who maybe are not individuals who are using their smartphone all the time, maybe a little bit more old school, this could be a struggle for some individuals. So that would be a potential disadvantage for sure. All right, 3, others may feel just a little bit stressed when they contemplate that all their communication is preserved. Send a text, they send an email, that's a little more casual, but when you send something within the app, that can cause some folks to have a little bit of analysis paralysis in terms of what to say. It can create a little more concern about using these apps, and it can cause some individuals who are maybe not fluent in typing and writing communication to struggle a little bit. So that could definitely be a thing. Now, for individuals who write and type a lot, that's not going to be as big of a thing. But for individuals who are not as fluent in language, this can cause them to feel a little bit stressed by using these apps. And then really the last one I would list would be, look, typically parties, when they use an app like this, they've got to go in every so often and respond within a certain time frame. And this is going to vary based on what's in the court order, if this is being used through a court order. But some individuals might be stressed at the idea that they have to check the app every day and respond within a certain number of hours. That could be stressful, particularly take somebody who likes to go to places where maybe cell phone or wireless signal isn't great. So take somebody who likes to camp, likes to hike, likes to go to more remote places. An app like this might be potentially troublesome for them, where they just have no signal, and they might not like that. In the fact that they can't get a break from ever using the app. So look, for some individuals it might feel a little restraining to have to use an app like this. Again, particularly if it's an individual who's going to a place where there's just no cell phone or wireless signal. And so certainly if it's an individual like that, maybe there needs to be some exception in the court order in terms of how often an individual needs to check the application itself. But that would really be the last disadvantage that I'd list here today. Again, others out there who've used these apps might have other positive attributes they'd cite and other negative attributes they'd cite about these applications. But the truth of the matter is co-parenting applications are on the rise. They're more and more commonplace. Lots of individuals going through divorce and custody cases end up using these applications, and my guess is this is only going to increase in prominence going into the future. So I wanted to cover this topic today to give the pros and the cons. And again, as a follow-up to the episode today, go on over to familylawheadquarters.com, read the article titled The Rise of Co-Parenting Applications, dated July 8th, 2024. It'll give you more information. Like I said, if you go on the web and do some searches, you'll certainly find individuals writing about other pros and cons of these applications. But the truth is these applications are here. They're here to stay. As it appears now, they seem to be growing in prominence. So it's definitely an important topic and one I wanted to cover here today. But thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned to our next episode coming up on Family Law Talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Family Law Talk with Kirk Stange. Visit StangeLawFirm.com for more about today's topic or to put Stange Law Firm to work for your family today. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements. Neither the Supreme Court of Missouri or Illinois reviews or approves certifying organizations or specialist designations. The information you obtained in this podcast is not, nor is it intended to be, legal advice. You should consult an attorney for advice regarding your individual situation. We invite you to contact us and welcome your calls, letters, and electronic mail. Contacting us does not create an attorney-client relationship. Please do not send any confidential information to us until such time as an attorney-client relationship has been established. Past results afford no guarantee of future results, and every case is different and must be judged on its own merits. Kirk Stange is responsible for the content. Headquarters, Office 120 South Central Avenue, Suite 450, Clayton, Missouri 63105. Kirk Stange is licensed in Missouri, Illinois, and Kansas.